I talk about the critical mind and the magical mind, because emotion leaves the body only in 3 ways. You will change your whole life just by doing that. Just by doing that, just by listening to your podcast.
Emotional health coach and best-selling author, Dr. Neeta Bhushan.
Dr. Neeta Bhushan.
Sheila Kelley, I am so excited for this conversation. How are you, love?
I'm so good. I feel deep gratitude and deeply blessed.
Oh, gosh. Okay. So, I just want to jump right in because this has been long awaited.
Yeah.
And I feel like I'm still feeling juicy from our 3 days together at your retreat. By the way, I was so pumped. I did a solo cast right before talking about like your sensuality, aka pole dance retreat. So can we just start there? How did that all come about? And
oh my gosh.
how are you now known as like one of the pioneers, I think, and legends in women's work and getting us more into our bodies?
It happened as an accident, honestly. It's a bit of a story. If you want me to dive in there, I will. I'm also an actress, and was a dance major in college, and I love movement. And I became fascinated by erotic movement, stripper movement, professional dancers when I'm in my early 20s, because everything I had ever learned was the opposite of what I saw when I went into a strip club. And I was absolutely gobsmacked at how beautiful these women were, and that they were kind of hidden away in these men's clubs. And I decided I wanted to make a movie. So I wrote and produced a film. It took me 15 years to get it made, but I eventually got it made. It was called Dancing at the Blue Iguana. And I raised $4 million to basically take a dance class. It's a great movie, but what I really got out of it was the extraordinary experience of working with these professional strippers. I had 2 different mentors who taught me how to find the voice, the erotic voice and the erotic presence of my body in a way that I had never been given permission to. In fact, all my life, and I think this is true of every friggin' one of the women who listen to you, Neeta, all of my life I had been told, no, don't keep it all in a box. Get that box, get in that box, girl, get in that box. And so I had lived in that friggin' box. And
it's a small box.
It's a small fucking square box. What that box did to me, or what the movement did to me, is it actually gave me an axe to just smack and open, break down the box of what is considered appropriate movement for women. And it allowed me to find the organic, indigenous, erotic, goddess, badass, queen, beautiful movement that I own, that every single woman owns so much beauty. And they're told to put their beauty away and only bring it out on certain times when it's considered appropriate. So it just rocked my world. And it rocked my world to the extent where it changed my marriage from being like, a good marriage to being like an extraordinary marriage. It taught me the dynamic of the beauty of polarity between masculine and feminine energy. It taught me how to own all of the genius and the brilliance and the beauty of the feminine. And it's not like a feminine with a little f. It's a feminine with a big fucking F. It's a powerful F. So,
well, and you've been married to the same man for
I've been with him
for
34 years.
Oh my gosh.
We've been together. I met him when I was 19. And we had I got to be really honest with you. We did not have a great marriage. We had, for the first 10 years, now explain that. We even had a kid together. For the first 10 years, it was tempestuous. It was like, he caused me pain. I caused him pain. Why are we still together? We broke up. We came back. We couldn't stay away because we have such an erotic charge, but we couldn't figure out how to get along. And this movement, S Factor, this philosophy, this feminine way of life, this feminine embodiment, Neeta, changed everything. It made me see that, oh my God, there's this whole playing field of my organic feminine nature that I'm not bringing into this relationship. Instead, I was trying to play in the mini man field. I was trying to outman him. So, you know how that goes.
I can relate. I can so relate. A
Okay.
lot of us can relate.
Yeah, it was truly a remarkable time in my life. Probably the most extraordinary revelation in my life was this period of time. And our marriage, you know, of course we have the peaks and valleys like everybody,
Sure.
but now we have the peaks and valleys with respect.
Mm.
We respect and honor the erotic nature, the emotional nature, the physical nature of him and me. So it's not ununderstood. He understands the feminine creature I am, which he didn't before, because I
Right.
wasn't bringing it. And I wasn't understanding the genius and the brilliance and the beauty of the masculine and
Mm.
honoring it and what he brought to the
Yeah.
table. Instead, I wanted him
Well,
to be a mini me.
and isn't that interesting, right? We want our
Yeah.
partners to be a mini us, and
Yeah.
we want them to do all of the things that we can do. And
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
we
Come shopping
emasculate.
with me.
And then we emasculate them when they're not,
Mm-hmm.
fulfilling on
No.
demand.
Yeah.
And you know what I've learned from just even, meeting you and diving in with you in the last few years. I mean, thanks Mama Gina, thanks Regina for
Thanks,
bringing us
Regina.
together. I said yes to
Mm.
this weekend. It was last year when S Factor came up. And, I was like, all right, I'll do some market research. I love dance. And I'm like, I really want to get more into my body because I had just had my second child and she was turning one. She was about, I
Mm.
think she was just about turning one. And I think for me growing up with dance, I'm like, all right, yes, I know how to dance, but I'm like, I just want to be in my body. And after
Yeah.
having two babies, running a bunch of companies, I feel like I was losing myself in that
Yeah.
way. And it was such a profound weekend. And I'll have you talk about it because,
Yeah.
I mean, so many women have been learning dancing with you
Mm.
for 20 plus years. And
Yeah.
what was so powerful, and I think I broke down one of the nights, was just seeing how the moms and the daughters
Ugh.
kind of moved
Oh.
together. And you and your daughter were up on stage as well. Or your daughter had come to that one. And I was like,
Yeah. Yeah.
oh, wow, this is not the dance that I was taught. For me, it was like performing for other people always,
Yeah.
as you
Yes.
do.
Yes.
And so can you talk to us about, because you did bring up, the erotic creature, and I know this is like, the essence of your work. But how that is just so important to
Mm.
understanding all the different aspects of who we are.
Absolutely. Uh, well, first, I love everything you just said. Thank you for that recap. And I just brought up so many great memories of the retreats and the mothers and the sisters. And oh, God, it's so very emotional. It's very, very emotional coming to an S
Mhm.
Factor event in a beautiful way, in a celebratory way. Because I could, I was like trying to hold my shit together because it's like, this is so beautiful and so touching. And this
Yeah.
is the right world. This is truth. Women
Yeah.
sharing their fullness, and that fullness includes parts of ourselves that have been shut down. The two
Mm.
most the two most shut down parts of the feminine are your emotions. Don't cry. Don't be angry. And
Yeah.
your sexuality. Don't move like that. Don't be like that. You're a whore. You're a slut. She asked for it. All of these messages we get. So we shut down two very vital components of what it is to be alive, what it is to be fully embodied. And I call S Factor an embodiment practice because dance sometimes gives people the connotation that we're dancing on a choreography or on a beat, and we're not. We are actually finding pleasure and movement through the body, no matter where you are. I've taught women in wheelchairs. I've taught women who can't move anything but from the neck up. So really, it truly is about living as fully as you can in what you have, and then allowing the beauty and the radiance of the feminine coming out through that movement, through that embodiment. So to me, waking up and owning the body first, and then bringing in the feminine aspect of the body, which is the curves, the sensuality, letting the emotion begin to flow, all that trapped emotion that lives here and here and here and here, all over our bodies. We pull it in, we tuck it in, and we keep it there for like safekeeping. But all it does is strangle us, and it concretizes us, creates us into these concrete monoliths that can't move and aren't in flow. And then we get into those damn boxes, can't breathe fully, can't feel fully, can't be a man fully, unless, we go through some kind of transition. But it's tough to be a feminine creature in a masculine world with all the masculine rules. So for me, the erotic is so beautiful. A huge component of my work, Neeta, I don't know if you know this, you probably have from the content I teach. I spend an enormous amount of time watching animals, primal bodies, because that's what we're missing. We're missing our primal body. And that body is emotional, and that body is sexual, and that body is sensual, and that body is pleasure seeking. But in this culture, like, oh, seeking pleasure, that's bad. That's decadent. That's extraneous. But it's not. It's actually why we have evolved and continue to evolve as a species, because we seek pleasure instead of pain. Right? So the erotic is that energy. It's pure energy, and it's the most incredibly potent energy to use in any way you want, towards love, towards business, towards life. So releasing it is paramount importance.
And I feel like even, just you being that person to help other women unlock their geniuses in the body. One of the things I loved most is like when, some of the women who are so masculine, and I'm like watching you, last year, and then even this year when your 3-day event was just a month ago or so,
Yeah.
at about the time that we're recording this. And I went with my co-founder Sahara, and we were both like, oh wow, it's just the way that you read bodies, because of seeing how we're so suppressing and denying
Yes.
ourselves the ability to feel. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I wonder what she's gonna say about us. And
I didn't get a chance to get into you yet.
I know you will.
I will. What were you going to say?
But I was going to say, some of the women who, we quiver our lip when we're about to hold back our tears, and, we have that lump in our throat, and then we're taught to just not allow. And I feel like because of the work with you, I'm like, okay, when I'm on a coaching call, I'm like, yeah, I'm just full emo sobbing. And allowing our students to also feel and break down and get messy and get vulnerable.
Yes.
Because I think before I would just teach it, and not full, and this would be mental up here. Like I knew it, but fully feeling it, and having somebody like you who's like, nope, actually let it go. Let it go. Where do you have to go right now? And can you speak to that?
Yeah, you're giving me goosebumps, girl. I love hearing the ripple effect of S Factor work. I love hearing this because it's so beautiful. We're healing the feminine. We're healing the feminine in the globe. And thank you for so much for sharing how much S Factor's affected you, because to me it's changed my life so deeply, and I use every tool every day. I use all the geniuses. It's so powerful. But what I do, look, I'm a body freak. I'm a geek. I love the body. I love the way our bodies move, the way they feel, the way they breathe. I love to watch every little look. If you just spend some time with a horse, spend some time with some dogs or some cats, and just watch them non-verbally communicate, move, navigate life. Every single friggin' cell with their body is titillated and alive, and and twitching and moving. They're not deadened like we are. We are living from the armpits up, and our little fingers moving in our arm. We lose the intricacies and the nuances of being so enlivened. I want you to feel the back of your shoulder blades right now. I want you to quiver them. Feel the quivering, feel the coolness, feel the heat, feel the warmth, feel the lower back now. Now feel the Kegel muscle inside your vagina. Now feel your toes. And if you can just continue to dance through allowing the magical mind to go down into the aliveness of the body, you will change your whole life just by doing that. Just by doing that, just by listening to your podcast. So what I do and what I've been doing for 24 years is my mother used to joke that I speak animal more than I speak human language. And I didn't speak quickly as a child, but I communicated with the animals we had. But I watch your body. I look for every single micro muscular impulse. I see where one is holding back. I see patterns. I see ancestral patterns. I see behavioral patterns that maybe might be blocking you. I see the box. I see the box that you might be stuck in. And so then I'll just love on you to encourage, say it's this shoulder that just can't move into pleasure that way. And then I'll just keep encouraging you so that muscle, that shoulder unlocks and stretches to her fullest potential of pleasure, right? And when that happens, and we've held that tight our whole life, when you do that, you're going to release all the crap that's coagulated there, right? You become this clear vessel of energy, this clear light of beauty.
Well, and it's your presence is so big and your energy is so big, and I feel like even those who are listening to this, probably moving their shoulders in different ways, and maybe this is the first time they're doing a body awareness scan. And talk to us a little bit about, because when you're reading bodies and you're unlocking them, there is a breakdown oftentimes.
Yeah.
And, even from your documentary, helping just if anybody hasn't seen the documentary yet, we'll link it in the show notes, and I want to ask a question around that. But kind of you don't get into their stories. And can you speak about that?
Well,
Because so often with traditional personal growth and personal development, and therapy work, it's like, all right, tell us a story. What happened? Let's go back. Let's go. And you're seeing something, and even on stage, and the last two times, and you're like, it doesn't matter what the story is. And can you speak to that? Because I love that so much.
Yeah, the body doesn't care what your story is. The body only cares to be clear. The body cares to feel pleasure and avoid pain. The body desires to conserve energy. The body, which I believe is the oracle of our lives, right? She's terrestrial. You're not. You're a soul, you're a spirit in this body. But this body is terrestrial. She knows how to live life here on this planet better than we do. And so when we're given this box early on to live without our emotions, without our sexuality, without our sensuality, you name it, there's a certain depression that sets in because you're literally oppressing your body. You're keeping your body quiet. If you just look at a cat, dogs, horses, animals, foxes, they're not quiet unless they're stealthily hunting, but every single muscle in their body is moving. So what happens when the story comes in, I noticed when I'm not a therapist, and I honor, and I always say to someone, if you need to talk about this with someone, I can recommend, Cheryl was there, a wonderful, wonderful therapist, Cheryl Fraser. I worked with Esther Perel. That's how to unpack the story if you want to unpack the story. What I want to help you do is jump over the story to get to a free body so that you are living in bliss and pleasure and radiance and beauty and profound, deep, epic love right away. So you don't have to get up here in the noggin to try and figure it out, because that's the critical mind, right? There's those two minds I teach about.
Yes.
The
Can you
critical
talk about
mind.
that?
Sure.
Yes.
I talk about the critical mind and the magical mind. So the critical mind is our masculine mind that needs a problem to solve, always trying to figure shit out, right? And that is the box. The critical mind was built by the box. I mean, the box was built by the critical mind. It's policed by the critical mind. The magical mind, well, it's important that I say this as well. The critical mind believes the body is here to serve it. The magical mind is the feminine mind. That is the mind that has enough humility to know that she's here to serve the body's experience on this earth.
Ooh.
She's here to ask the body first before she takes action. She doesn't need an obedient body. She needs a stealth, fluid, cunning, brilliant hunter, huntress, hunted body. She needs a primal body to bring to life so that your body will bring you the most beautiful and full life you can possibly have. What happens with that critical mind is it locks your body with all of the reactions it doesn't let you have. You get yelled at and you want to cry, but you're told no, so you hold it here in your jaw. And then you get really tight, and then you get hit by a baseball and you want to cry or scream or get angry, but everybody's watching, so you hold it because everybody thinks if I cry I'm weak. And then you hold it in your shoulders. So you slowly start to turn to stone. So when you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
So
Absolutely.
so when you start to S factor, soften your body into your feminine, soften your body into pleasure, all of those places that you disallowed, deactivated, you're going to bring life back to those areas, and you're going to release all the shit that you were holding on to. And it's literally a muscular release. Your muscle that's been holding here for 20 years is just going to go, okay, all right, you want pleasure? Release. And then tears or sobs or crying or laughing hysterically is coming out, because emotion leaves the body only in 3 ways: sound, movement, breath. That's it. You've got to make a sound. You've got to make a movement. You got to breathe it. So,
Like animals.
like
Sound, movement, breath.
animals. Yes, exactly. And so I'm not afraid of emotion. I love it. It's life again. Like the erotic, emotion is pure energy. It's pure life. It's flow. It's the action to it's a reaction to an action. You have an input. You have an external input, or you have a thought input. An electrical reaction happens within the body, and emotion is created, and it has to be released, or it stays in here and turns into stone in a box.
And you're still in that box, and you're in that box for a very long time.
You get in that box. Yeah, it's sad, isn't it? Yeah.
And I think also for a lot of the women who are listening, they are either in the pinnacles of their career, they're trying to be the top, or they have just entered motherhood. And one of the things I loved so much in just seeing you and how you bring your entire family to
I do.
the work. I mean, you had aunts there, you had your
Nieces,
daughters there, you had cousins, nieces, I mean, it was a whole, and there were generations of women there, grandmothers and aunts and daughters and then granddaughters there at your event. And when someone actually thinks, okay, sensual embodiment work, pole dancing, this is something that is not attainable for me. I'm not a performer. I don't dance. So let's get into first, how have you been able to make it safe for families, and kind of shifting a narrative of being the good girl in the box, of really allowing ourselves and teaching the younger versions of ourselves? Because now I look at my daughter and I'm like, oh my gosh, how awesome would it be to do that with her?
Right. That's a big question, Neeta. That's a big question to unpack because, globally, the feminine is hurting. Globally, the feminine is angry. Globally, the feminine is just shut down. So I lead by example. I do it, and I do it with pride. And I am actually proud of this quote, but I feel like I crush shame for a living. I crush my own shame. I'll crush my daughter's shame. I watch society shut women's bodies down systemically over and over again through TV ads, through magazine articles, through interactions with people who will say to a nursing mother, can you do that somewhere else? Whoa. The shame that we impinge upon women is extraordinary. You would never find this done to the masculine because they punch you in the face, say fuck off. But we are kind, we're different, we're so different in so many ways, those of us who identify as feminine. And when I talk about feminine and masculine, I am not talking about gender. I want to get really super clear on that. There are people of all different genders. Some of them identify on the spectrum of masculine, feminine in all different ways. I'm talking about that spectrum. And we all have everything. I've got a strong masculine side. I've got a strong feminine side now. So that's bringing my family and watching my daughter grow up in this movement, play on the pole at the age of 3 and 4, and dispelling that stupid bubble of shame, this weird concept of, oh, that pole. Like, I know a bunch of comedians are like, I'm going to keep my daughter off the pole. Like, it's just so pandering and so it infantilizes women in such a horrible way. So exposing my daughter very early, she was wearing, she would get in she's like a 6-year-old, my heels, my 7-8 inch heels. I never hid it from her. When they ask questions, I speak the truth. I don't buy into this puritanical ideology. I just don't. I believe in the animal body is more intelligent than all of that. So she didn't need to sneak out with sexy clothes hidden in her bag because I had tons of sexy clothes that I gave her that she could wear at class, so she didn't feel like she had to, and her friends, she'd pick her friends up in high school and they'd all have these sexy clothes hidden. They have sweatshirts on and they'd go to the mall, go to the bathroom, change into these uber sexy clothes. My daughter didn't have to do that and didn't feel compelled to do that because she was in S Factor class, in 7-inch heels, in sexy lingerie. And she's like, my mom gave this stuff to me. My mom celebrates my sexuality. And I don't have to use it. I don't have to exploit it. I don't have to, show it off. I know it. So I'm not gonna lie. My children were my guinea pigs. I raised my son and my daughter with all this exposure to female sexuality, eroticism, freedom, emotion. And they're two of the most extraordinary people I've ever met in my life. My son is such a man. And he's such a man because he watched and learned and he worships the feminine. And he wants to hold space for the feminine. And he's big, he's 6'2", he's a big, strong guy. He's just so in awe of the femme. And that to me is good job, Mom.
Right. You did it.
Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I mean, so many of us have our triggers and wounds from not just our inner child years, but like our teenage years. And I was just sharing with you that we just had our event, and really that teenage day was so profound because there was so much rage. There was that time where we were rebellious. And I know in your work, you do talk about the idea of that rebellion. And it starts in that inner teenage year, those teenage years
Yeah.
where you were having to suppress, or you had to be the good girl, or hiding the clothes, lying. I did so much of that because in
Yeah.
the Indian Filipino culture, there's no way you're dating, especially, you're supposed to be studying and dressing like
Yeah.
that, showing your midriff or whatever the case. And the sexy heels, that didn't come out until much later for me. And so it was so liberating to actually see many mothers and daughters, and even, some of them were grandmas getting out.
Yes.
And
Yes.
let's talk about that, because it
I
was
mean,
like,
how?
wow, you have just created such a world of
Yeah.
full liberation, and it's every single body type as well.
Every single body type, every age. I mean, it's truly. I go to that movable feast dinner because on the second night we do this thing called a movable feast where we have poles and music and lights and walls, and you can get dressed up to the nines, and you eat dinner and dance at the same time, and it's this. It truly feels like Fight Club for women, only we're not trying to kill each other; we're trying to elevate each other.
Yeah.
And it's just so badass, and it's so hidden. Like, I don't know if people have walked into these classes and these movements in that dinner with never having an introduction to S, their jaw, like they have to pick their jaw up off the floor to close their mouth, because it's an extraordinary world that I've never seen anywhere else in the entire universe that I've been in. But the giving women access to their beauty,
Hmm.
to their radiance, to their life force, to their sparkle and shine, because the feminine just is nature. She is movement. She is light itself. And when you let that light up the whole fucking room she's in, then she just feels, wow, God, I am fully alive in this moment. But when you tell her to dim her light and get into that box, and only can she see the light in the box, that creates a depression in the body,
Yeah.
because the feminine is supposed to be light. She's supposed to light the whole world with love and energy and passion and emotion and rage and sadness. And she teaches the world to feel.
Hmm.
So when you give women access, or I don't even give them access, I literally just shine a light on them and guide and love them to full fruition. It's it's quite emotional in a beautiful
Hmm.
way. It's it's awe inspiring. It's breathtaking.
Hmm.
Yeah.
What has been some of the most
Mm.
profound, like, transformations that you've witnessed in doing this work in probably some students or clients over the last, 30 years, 25 years that you've been
Yeah,
doing this?
it's that's a that's a there's so, I mean, thousands and thousands of women. I think I've taught through the DVDs and my live teaching, so like hundreds of thousands of women. I can't even begin to. I, I've seen women who were told that they're never going to have a baby because their body was just shut down, and they open it up, they move it, and they get pregnant within, like, 6 months of starting S Factor. I've seen women who were 45 years old and had been looking for love their whole lives and just couldn't get there. I see them release buckets of shame and crap that they don't need on their bodies. And then their light shines and love comes, and they are in the deepest, most profound love that they never thought was possible. Epic love. I've seen women, uh, heroic women, heal themselves of all kinds of different traumas, sexual trauma, emotional trauma, physical traumas. I mean, just taking this beautiful journey of reclaiming self through my fingertips, through my senses, through my curves. It's a heroic journey. It's the heroine's journey,
Hmm.
and it's extraordinary to watch. But I did want to say something to you, because you talked about how what you were saying, that you were the one that would take the sexy clothes and change
Oh yeah.
in the mall, and we talked about how we shut ourselves down. I want you to think about the amount of energy it takes to shut down a cry. When tears want to come and you pull it back, just think about that energy, because then you have to hold that energy. You don't just let it go, but you're holding that energy in. And then let's say that's 10% of your energy for the day. That 10% of your energy that's squelching you could be used to move you forward in life towards your bliss. It's quite extraordinary what happens when you choose this path of reclaiming the body, the erotic, the emotional.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I feel like it's totally shifted my relationship even with my husband.
Oh,
We
really?
put a poll in our studio because of you. And I have,
Woo!
it's next to the rage room, so I have a place to release the rage as well as, dance it out and
Yeah,
practice pole as well.
love
And
it.
that's, it's for me, right? I
Yeah,
think that so often we think, oh, it's for a partner. I think first I needed to, and obviously all thanks to you and S Factor, but I needed to actually have something for myself,
yeah,
especially when we are kind of in the throes of the toddler arena motherhood. You're like,
yes.
you're
Oh,
depleted in so many ways. And so if people may not have the capacity to leave for 3 days and leave their kids and come to an S Factor
mm.
retreat, what are some of the ways that they can even start noticing themselves and honoring themselves even today after listening to this?
So much of it is about the magical mind. So if you could just start literally being present, not with I love I jumping all over the place. I have like a crazy mind. If you can just start with the magical mind and thinking down into one single part of your body. Like right now, Neeta, I just want you to think into one single part of your body that desires pleasure.
Oh, my
Let the
thighs.
desire build. Let the desire let it build. Let it build. Just think about it. Think about, oh, I could stretch it. I could reach it. I could move it. Don't do it yet. Don't do it. Let the desire build. You thinking?
Hmm.
Which part of your body are you thinking about?
My thighs.
Okay. And what do they want to do? Do they want to get kissed? Do they want to brush against each other? Do they want to stretch?
They want to stretch.
Now start letting them do it. Now start letting them do it slowly and decadently, like chocolate syrup running down your body. Even, yes. And I want you to make a sound to the pleasure. Oh, yeah. Just for you. Oh, yes, yes. And that's all you, that is where you start right there. I'm thinking about
Mm.
my arms, my rib cage, and let the pleasure, let the desire build. That's the key. Thinking down into the body, my back of my neck, right? Oh, God, I really want to drop my head forward, but I'm not going to yet. I'm not going to yet. Okay. And then finally, when the desire just explodes, then you give into it and let the body twist, stretch, reach, swell with love and pleasure. Look at you go, girl. Yeah. So that's how I would start. But also, I just want to let you know and let your listeners know that since COVID, I started to do a 6 month journey online. So you can be anywhere in the world and you can take this first 6 months with me. And it's the same 6 months that you'll see in the documentary on Netflix, Strip Down, Rise Up.
Mhm.
So if that starts in September 9th. And I
September
would
9th.
love to have you guys all come, because
Oh
it's
my gosh.
meticulous. And we go through each of the icons, the 10 different erotic emotional icons. It's really powerful.
It is powerful. I definitely, signed up for all of the things. So we'll definitely put So we'll have the link in the show notes as
Sweet.
the journey begins in September. I mean, it is one of the most fascinating things that you can actually do, and you don't need a pole,
No,
obviously.
you do not need a pole.
It's
We
just
still have the pole, but we've gone more into embodiment and erotic, and yeah, yeah.
it's even just moving, just the two movements. I'm already juiced up and energized. So if you even took the time to, if you're watching this on YouTube, and allowed yourself, you can even do it in the car while you're driving, just like the one hand up, and
Yeah.
allow certain movements. And
Mhm.
what I'm hearing from you always is savoring the slow. And
Yes.
I mean, and I think you talk about that a lot in terms of really being able to get fully into our senses, and there's nowhere to go but being in the now, in the present,
Yeah.
especially when we have the constant to-dos and the
Yes.
next thing and the next thing and the next thing. What I've really learned, even from this conversation, another reminder even for you all, is to savor the slow and to really kind of tune into your body, even the way you're just, before you even speak,
Mm-hmm.
you're like, let's see what my body needs to say, which is, I mean, you're just the truest embodiment of it all, which is why I'm just so grateful in so many ways. Usually when we wrap up, when we get into the igniting round, I'll start by, well, first where can we all get more Sheila Kelley?
Oh, you can come onto uh, the website, sfactor.com, or you
So
can
everything
follow
is
me.
on sfactor.com.
Everything's on sfactor.com, and but I am weekly on Sheila Kelley S on Instagram and S Factor on Instagram. That's where we really love, and we're just starting to kind of rev up TikTok a little bit, but it's really Instagram. Uh,
Perfect.
you can follow and get some kind of inspiring embodiment tips and cues and recalls into the body and permission from following those. Yeah.
Yeah. So fun. All right. What does bravery mean to you at this stage of life?
Bravery means having mm, having no other option but to either collapse or rise,
Hmm.
to freeze or move forward. Bravery is moving forward and moving up into expansion and growth, which is truly always a little painful. So it's facing that growth.
I
Yeah.
love that. And my next one comes from our conversation card decks.
Well, this is cool.
So this is from your upbringing.
Oh.
Ooh, okay. What did little Sheila enjoy doing as a child? And does she still do it as an adult?
Do you want me to say what first came to mind?
Okay, fine. Yes. It's the brave table.
Masturbating.
Yes.
Masturbating. Masturbating. Then and now, sexuality is vital. I love it. It has brought me so much goodness in life. And
Ah,
it's wholesome. And it's wholesome.
and it's wholesome.
Yeah.
And it's a stress reliever as well.
It's the best.
And it's a connection back to you. I love that
Yeah.
you brought that up. Okay, and final question. What word describes this season of life?
Extraordinary.
Hmm,
Extraordinary.
that's what I
I
feel
have so
from
many words.
you.
What'd you say?
I said that's what I feel from you. And I
Oh.
and this full conversation, I think we've expanded and tantalized all edges. And I hope that we've been able to give others a
Yeah.
glimpse into the world and just the profound world of S Factor and what you've created. Um, and also just really allowing us to tune into our bodies and what true embodiment is. And that's really you. You are the best expression of it and one of my favorite teachers on this topic. So I'm so glad that you were able to shine your wisdom here with us. We'll link everything in the show notes. Thank you so much, Sheila, for having and being with us today.
My pleasure.
Sweet. Until next time on the Brave Table.